Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy. And now, here are your hosts, Josh Guesman and Wendy Thomas.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Josh Guesman, Miss Wendy Thomas, back with you for a wonderful Thursday live show. Glad you could join us if you're joining us live. And if you're listening on the podcast, thanks for listening to us. Our numbers continue to rise because of all of your awesome word-of-mouth advertising, and we're glad that we can provide you with all of your LA Galaxy information and make you the smartest person in your row, at your home, in your car, when it comes to the LA Galaxy, all right? Lots of different angles, certainly, to look at there. We got a great show as the LA Galaxy get ready to travel up to San Jose to take on the San Jose Earthquakes, the very first Cali-Clasico of 2017. So we'll obviously focus on that in the second half of the show. But before we get started, she had last week off. You had me being slightly delirious, a little tired, and not really paying attention. But apparently I turned out a pretty funny show, but it's a good thing that Wendy's back. So Wendy, how are you doing? Hanging in there?
I'm hanging in. How are you, Josh?
You know what? Not too bad. Not too bad. Busy. Going to the San Jose game this weekend, though. So not so busy.
That is going to be fun. I'm actually going to be in the Bay Area next week, but I am not going to the San Jose game.
That's okay. If you have to be in the Bay Area and it's not the LA Galaxy playing, then you don't want to be in the Bay Area, quite honestly. I mean,
I actually like the Bay Area. I understand there's a lot of antipathy for the San Jose Earthquakes, but in terms of the city itself, I'm okay with it.
It can be a, you know what? Anything really besides San Jose is a very nice area. There's parts of Oakland I like way better than San Jose. How about that? Can I say that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we can't, my mom's there. So, okay. I can't bash my mom.
That's okay. Well, except for your mom, everybody else in San Jose. It's a good thing that really the stadium is right next to the airport. You can see it as you land because that means that you have to really not go through that much of San Jose in order to go to the game if you're flying in. If you're driving in, well, too bad. I don't know what else.
Have you been to Avaya before?
I have. I was there whenever they opened it. Remember, the LA Galaxy played a preseason game against San Jose. And it was one of those that didn't count. It was in the preseason, and it was the soft opening for the stadium. So I was there for the very first game that they played at Avaya Stadium, where I believe Omar Gonzalez gets the what is it? The monopoly, not the monopoly, but the wow, it's going to be one of those shows already, Wendy. I can tell already.
Already freezing. See, I think you're still fatigued from last week. You were flying. We all have to travel a lot for our jobs.
Yes.
You're not sitting on a roof in San Jose, are you?
No, thank you. I've since moved myself back off the roof. But the trivia question, hey, look, it only took me 30 seconds. The trivia question to who scored the first goal for the San Jose Earthquakes at Avaya Stadium would be Omar Gonzalez, who scored an own goal. I believe that is correct.
Well, he's moved on to bigger and better things with Pachuca.
That's a good thing. He's okay. He's okay. He made it work. But the LA Galaxy, Wendy, I don't know that you've been on since this LA Galaxy team has done positive things.
I mean, I have a conspiracy theory. Do you want to hear it?
Yes, I would love to hear yours.
So this is the first time since I started watching the LA Galaxy when I was not able to watch two games that are consecutive games live. I had to watch both of the last two games after they had been played, and we won both games. So now I'm starting to think maybe it has something to do with I can't watch LA Galaxy games live, otherwise I'm jinxing them.
I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing, and so that means that you won't be watching on Saturday. You're not allowed to watch it live.
My conspiracy theory is predicated on the idea that I am the center of the universe.
Yes.
But it doesn't seem too unreasonable to me.
No, and quite honestly, I think Galaxy fans will agree with me when we say that we believe you, and that you shouldn't watch the game live. It's that there's somebody in the LA Galaxy, there's a Facebook group, LA Galaxy fans that I belong to, and I get to post a lot of my articles and the podcasts in there, and I get to have some discussions with people, and it's a good place for people to sort of meet and that type of thing. There's one fan there who likes to travel a lot. I believe her name is Karen, and Karen likes to travel a lot. Well, every time Karen travels to a game, the LA Galaxy lose. So the Facebook group has banned Karen from traveling to LA Galaxy games anymore. So Karen, if you're planning on going to San Jose, that's not allowed either. So and Wendy, you're not allowed to watch the game live. So I mean, we just have to put the rules in place in order to make sure that the Galaxy continue to win.
Yes, and the Galaxy have won 2 games in a row.
For somebody who thought that it would be a miracle if they got 1 point out of 4 games, I'm kind of thinking this 6 out of 6 points out of 6 points that they've had, 2 of 2. It's one of those things that it baffles the mind, and it goes to prove again, Wendy. And I've said this many, many times, and I know lots of people have heard this before. Is that you can't bet on MLS, and that MLS is a week to week type of league, which means you have to judge it on 1 week and 1 week only, because who knows what's going to happen the next week. Philadelphia is a good team all of a sudden. The LA Galaxy.
They've won 5 in a row now. Is that right?
I don't think it's that many. I think
they've been like. I don't think they've lost a game in 5.
Yeah, they may not. Well, they tied with the LA Galaxy, so that was one, and then I think they've had 2 or 3 games since then. I think they've won them all. So, it's certainly.
MLS is one of those really strange. I think it might even be unique in this respect, which is that variables which do not impact other leagues impact MLS in a really dramatic way, and I think that's probably a function of the fact that we have this roster situation where there's caps, so which means you wind up spending a disproportionate amount of your salary on your starting 11. So every team is more dramatically impacted by injuries and streaks and stuff like that when it comes to how their DPs and their highly compensated players are doing. So if you have a team and your highly compensated players you're in the starting 11 are not doing well, it impacts your team so much more than it would in the EPL, the Bundesliga, wherein players would just get kicked to the bench, and the player who's on the bench is only marginally worse than the player who's starting.
Yeah.
So we have all these peculiarities that really impact MLS teams from week to week, and it also it creates parity, but it also creates dramatic swings, which sounds counterintuitive, but I think it's true.
I think, it is absolutely true. See, the parity comes into the fact that any team can beat any team, and that anything realistically can happen. I mean, but you even look at the LA Galaxy winning 2 road games in a row. They have MLS's best road record right now, which is just humorous. They have 9 points out of 5 games, which is a good record. I mean, that's decent. They have two more wins on the road than they do at home right now. I think that's right. So you go ahead and you look at all this and you're like, okay, well, I mean, how is that even possible that in MLS, where we know that travel certainly affects how players play and sort of the results of the game, you can almost bet money that the home team is at least going to get a draw, and that they're not going to lose the game. But the LA Galaxy have gone to the East Coast, where they hadn't won in X number of years, and they beat New York against a bad New York team. And then they beat Minnesota United in a game, maybe I said they stole it. I will continue to believe that they stole that game.
It was fluky. It was definitely fluky.
What hasn't been fluky?
I mean, it was fluky, but it wasn't, right? We know Romain Alessandrini is good. So when he does something good, you're not surprised by that. When Christian Ramirez does an own goal, that's a little bit fluky. I mean, there's both good, legitimately good things that we can point to, and then there's also luck. And luck has actually played a hand in a number of Galaxy games this year, both for the good and the bad. I mean, remember, Jelle Van Dam got carded for not even touching, in the Portland game. I mean,
right.
All these fluky, strange things where it goes against you. But then if you believe in sort of the karmic nature of the universe, then you figure it's all going to even out eventually, where good things will happen for us, like Christian Ramirez scoring an own goal for the LA Galaxy.
Yeah, apparently that was his second in 2 weeks as well. So apparently, so he's been pointed in the wrong direction twice in 2 weeks. Hey, it's a good ball. I mean, it is. You do have to credit the skill, and I don't want to just sort of look over it. But he put the ball right where it should have been.
He's a striker, when he gets close to the net, he just feels like he has to try and get the ball in the net.
Yeah, by the way, the chat room says that we have to lock you in a closet for the rest of the season during live games.
Oh, dear.
So just
unfortunate for me.
Just giving you a little heads up on that. Here's the difference. Here's the Minnesota game in a nutshell. And I know a lot of you listened to the Monday night show where Kevin and I talked about it. And now, Wendy, obviously, we're going to give you a chance to look at it. But it's a tale of two halves for me. And the first half was an LA Galaxy team that I can get behind in terms of that was a pretty good showing in the first half. Although I still maintain that Minnesota had several good chances in the first half to score goals. And Brian Rowe.
Oh, they did. Brian Rowe with that save, that flying it was like first 10 minutes of the game.
Yeah, it was a great low left, his left hand. I mean, the angle on the camera is really great too. It's right behind the shot. So he makes a great save. So that sort of helps him out. But I mean, that's a point right there where Minnesota should have scored a goal there.
They could have easily.
Yeah, and so that's one. I think they had a couple chances in the first half, and then you go into the second half with Brian Rowe making some ridiculous saves. But everybody's sort of looking at that first save as the one that was just such a ridiculous save, just because it's so easy to visualize. But that second one on the near post. On the header, that looks like it gets headed off the upright, but if you go back and watch it in slow motion, and they have a great picture of it, it actually goes off of Rowe's arm and then off the post. And so that, from point blank range and being right where it was, to me, was sort of that standout save. But the LA Galaxy were thoroughly outplayed in the second half, and it's amazing to me that, one, they got bailed out by the own goal, Christian Ramirez's own goal, and that, two, they didn't score more goals than that. And maybe a little tip of the hat, obviously, to Brian Rowe and the defense, who has been playing much more stable defensive soccer, and then also screaming at the offense for me.
I loved Ashley Cole's clearance off the line. I loved that, especially when you saw his face afterwards and he turned around. He was furious. You could see his mouth when you were watching the screen. He goes, that he was saying to him, "Come on!" He was just shouting.
Right.
I love it when a defender gets mad. And then I also loved Emma Boateng's header clearance off the line. Love it to see a guy who's about 4'10" jump 2 feet in the air to do a header clearance. Love that.
Over Giassi's artist, there were a couple of guys. Yeah,
leaping over Giassi's artist.
Cracks me up. No, Boateng. Again, I mean, you look at the performances. Here's the thing. I thought that. And we have to talk about the injury and that Baggio Husidic and getting injured in the 5th minute, and just that's horrible. And we'll talk about that.
That's like our midfield. How about talking about our midfield?
Oh, trust me, that's on the topics of things to discuss. It's hard not to discuss that. But when you look at it, I thought that the midfield, even with Rafa Garcia in there, played well. I thought the defense played well. I thought Brian Rowe had an outstanding game. So you put all those things together, and you wonder why the LA Galaxy got so thoroughly outplayed in the second half, and you have to point to the strikers, Giassi's artist and Giovani dos Santos. And Gio, I thought, had a good first half. I'm perfectly happy with him.
Well, the goal on the outside of the foot, that is a thing of beauty.
I talked to Taylor Twellman after the game, by the way, because...
I don't even know if that was intent. I mean, was that really intentional? Did he mean that to score that goal? It was so... seems so improbable that and given how Gio plays, part of you is like, is he really that skilled that he's able to do an out of the foot mid-air volley strike?
Yeah.
Versus, I mean, it's versus, and then all of a sudden he disappears, and then I don't know, it's just bizarre.
Well, I wrote an article about Giovani dos Santos that is up on Corner of the Galaxy. It just got published today on Thursday as we're recording, so just a couple hours before I recorded, and I've been working on it for a little while. But Giovani dos Santos basically said, I think the play was great, and the only thing that came to my mind in that moment was to kick the ball like that, and it went to the inside of the net. That's basically what he said. Well, I talked to Twellman about it, because everybody's making fun of Taylor for his pronouncement of Giovanni in Giviani, I think is how it went, Giviani, but he was so excited, and he was talking about it, and he basically said, and I asked him about the goal. I go, clearly, as a striker, Taylor, you have a different view on this than I do. I go, it looked good, but is it really that difficult? I'm like, I wanted his insight in it. And he goes, and this is what he told me. He goes, he made it look routine, and it's not. All right. He goes, especially with an off foot. So he has that left foot out there.
Yeah.
He goes, you might even ask why he would even try it if a simple inside of the foot gets the job done. Right. And so that's in my article that you can read up there about Giovani dos Santos. And I think that
and he was in the air, and it's his left foot, and he was striking with the outside of his foot, and it was like a midair volley. It seems such a low probability shot, but it went in. So, and you have to think, I mean, he must be really skilled in order to do that.
Yeah.
But then why doesn't he do stuff like that more often?
That is what my article sort of covers. I mean, that is the perfect example of Giovani dos Santos. You see this guy who has this unbelievable skill, and everybody goes back to that 2011 Gold Cup goal against the United States, which is
Tim Howard, yeah,
which is still one of my favorite goals. And even the fact that I technically am a U.S. men's national team fan. I'm a soccer fan, and watching that goal, it's frustrating every time I see it, but I'm also amazed at just the calmness and the ability to evade and to keep the play alive, and then the touch and the finish. I mean, that's what he does. The good news, I think, for LA Galaxy fans is if he's scoring a goal like that right now with that outside touch and the little thing, the little flick and it goes over, the goalkeeper and everything works out. What does that do to his confidence? We've talked about Giovani dos Santos being a confidence guy, Wendy. He has to be happy. He has to feel confidence. He has to be going.
Right. Yes, he needs to be wooed.
He's wooing himself right now. All right. I don't probably NC-17 for a lot of people, but he's wooing himself. All right.
Giovani dos Santos is like a beautiful woman, very frustrating, capable of delivering amazing things, but very frustrating in the sense that you need to coax him, you need to cultivate him, you need to woo him. He needs to be in the right mood. He needs to be feeling, just the right way in order to put out, I guess.
I don't know how else you could have finished that, quite honestly. You were talking yourself into the corner, and I'm like, it's gonna have to. That's where it's gonna have to end up.
Yeah,
I get it.
There is another striker, though. Josh,
is there?
We should be discussing. There is another striker we should be discussing.
I didn't see him out on the field. Can you possibly give me maybe a name or a number I should be looking for?
Well, I think we should discuss what's going on with Giovani dos Santos.
Oh, it's been one of the biggest frustrations that I think the LA Galaxy have. I know watching this game, the biggest, most evident problem that you could see with the LA Galaxy in the second half was the fact that Giovani dos Santos could do zero in terms of getting on the ball, holding the ball, distributing the ball, and creating any sort of time or movement for either Giovani dos Santos or the midfield to be able to relieve some of the pressure. And in a game like this, where, I think the LA Galaxy are playing for a draw. You can't tell me they're trying to win that game. It's 1-1. It's getting later and later. You got to start doing stuff to milk the clock and gain some possession. The possession in this was so lopsided, Wendy. It was so lopsided that you needed something, and unfortunately, Giovani dos Santos couldn't provide you any of that. And I don't think you can blame anybody else but Giovani dos Santos for it, because he looked like he was playing a game all by himself, and he was losing that game.
Yeah, I don't know what is... he's never been what I would say is the most naturally talented player in terms of his vision.
Yep.
He's always had great work ethic. He's a good listener. He's a team player. He'll play any position. He'll try anything. He's not exactly gifted, but, he'll put in 100% effort. And I don't know what is going on. I don't know if it's that he's lost his feeling for the game or psychologically if there's something wrong, but it's like it's foreign to him. It's like he's speaking a foreign language. I'm not sure whether it's an emotional or psychological issue, because physically he looks okay to me. He looks like he's able to run. It looks like he's able to his movement's pretty good. His mobility's pretty good. So I'm not sure whether it's just like, soccer is unlike a lot of sports in that there is a lot of it is based on your kinesthetic sense and a very much subconscious intelligence. It's predicated on instinct. That's why people like Lionel Messi, who are these little unimpressive looking guys, can be geniuses at it. And Jesse, it's like if that awareness, that subtextual awareness of space and instinct and stuff like that, it's like it's slipped away from him or something.
Do we think he's playing out of position?
I think striker is the best position for him. I don't think that to be a good winger, you need to have, not only do you need to be able to defend, usually, you'd have to have some sort of defensive awareness, but you also have to be pretty good positionally, and you have to have a much better sense of what's going on in the field. You need to know getting into spaces, getting into positions. I think to be a striker, you don't have to have the same type of field intelligence. And so I think that for Giovani, being a striker suits him best as opposed to being a winger.
Well,
Why? What do you think?
Here's my problem with him just being the striker, at least the striker the LA Galaxy are asking him to be right now. They're asking him to be that 9, right? Because Giovani dos Santos is floating underneath him, so they're asking him to stretch the defense a little bit vertically, get some runs in behind, and he's going to have to play a large part with his back to goal. And I don't think he's a back-to-goal guy. And the way that the Galaxy seem to be using him right now, it just feels like maybe it's out of place. I don't have a problem with him being sort of the second striker in a 4-4-2 with two strikers who sort of like to stay on the same line. And if you get Gyasi running downhill or pointed towards the goal, I think that he makes the smart pass a lot of times, and I think that he can make a smart run. But what you're asking him to do is collect the ball, distribute, turn with his back to goal, and do all those things. And as we know, and as he's been heavily criticized throughout his career for, he doesn't have a great first touch.
No.
And so you're asking him to have a great first touch with pressure on his back constantly. And these aren't excuses for him. He should be able to play that position. He's big enough.
But I'm not even talking about him. I'm not even talking about him not moving forward as a player. You are issuing critiques which were fair of Gyasi Zardes when he was playing at his best.
Right.
I'm saying that it doesn't even look like he's playing at the level he was playing at 2 years ago. And so, I mean, I understand back then his game was facilitated. It was improved a lot by being surrounded by Landon Donovan and Robbie Keane. But there's something, I'm not even saying like, oh, he needs to play with back to goal. He's never going to be Didier Drogba.
No.
But I mean, he needs to be more of a stand-up striker, being, stuff like that. I'm saying that even the things he used to be good at, it doesn't look like he's good at them right now.
I mean, some of that, I think, again, is the long layoff that he's had, and he hasn't played in a lot of games. But and here's the part.
Yes.
Here's the tough part for it, Wendy. You can't just bench him, because if you're going to bench him, he's not going to develop what you need him to develop. But I do think that he needs to be on a shorter hook, because you can't leave him in the game until I don't know. It feels like they're leaving him in the game for every 90 minutes, and whether or not that's good for him or not. But give him 60 minutes, give him 65 minutes, and then bring other people in. You have two Jack Macks. You have Jack McBean, you have Jack McInerney. Give those guys a chance, because the minutes they're getting now, if it's anything, is sort of like a throwaway 8 minutes, all right? And sometimes if you're in a winning position and you bring a striker in, their only job isn't to score goals. Their job is to get the ball, hold the ball, and run to the corner. So you have to do something in order to facilitate a backup plan if Gyasi Zardes is not going to return to what he needs to be, or if you need to play him in a different position.
But if your position is essentially that you need to play a player in order to develop him, to improve him, isn't that also true of Jack McInerney and Jack McBean? I mean, I know everyone really loves Gyasi Zardes because, he's a hometown player,
right,
et cetera, et cetera. He's played for the U.S. men's national team. But, I mean, why shouldn't we say the same thing of Jack McBean or Jack McInerney? I mean, they also would benefit from being given minutes during a game. They also would improve. They also would develop their game. I think that, and if that is your position, then I think that you should draw sort of a line in the sand for yourself and say, at what point in time are we not going to take that position anymore? I mean, it's like, okay, we'll give him minutes this game, this game, this game. But at what point do you say, we can't afford to just give minutes to someone who's not going to make use of them?
Somebody in the chat room said Gyasi should play at right back. All right. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we're there yet. All right. Here's the thing, and it's sort of a different thing than I think in a lot of positions with the strikers. To me, Wendy, and you can tell me if you think I'm crazy or not. With strikers, they really do need those game minutes. So I agree. I think that is my position. Is you still need to give Gyasi a chance here, and you still need to let him still develop. I mean, I think he's played in 6 games or 7 games so far, and has like 551 minutes total. It's not a lot.
But everyone needs to develop. Why does he need to develop more than other people?
Well, because this gets back into Major League Soccer.
A lot of money. We're paying him $487,000 or something like that, and so it would be yet more money that the FO has flushed down the toilet. But other than money, why do we need to play him more than we need to play other strikers?
Well, because I think that he has one of the higher ceilings for what you could expect. The thing with Gyasi Zardes is that at one point there was talk about selling him. And people keep
They're
asking.
not going to sell him now. He's not worth much now.
See, that's the whole thing. Is everybody's going, well, why don't we just need to sell Gyasi? These are my favorite things.
High.
I'm like, hey, who wants to buy my broken down car right now? Or do you want me to fix it first and then you can do that?
The same principles that apply to athletes also apply to stocks. You sell your stocks high, not low.
Well, in that case, the LA Galaxy should have gotten rid of Gyasi Zardes. And by the way,
2 years ago.
Jared Dubois actually said this whenever he was in 2014 when Gyasi had 16 goals. He said, "Sell now." sell high, right? And he was right. It's 16 goals in 2014. In 2015, 2016, he's playing a different position, 6 goals and 6 goals, so you can understand that a little bit. But so far what we have is 7 games played, 6 games started, 551 minutes, 1 assist. Here comes the problem. In 7 games, the striker who you have needed to produce offense has 7 total shots and 3 shots on goal. That's a problem. So it's not just the fact that Wendy, he's even playing bad. He's not even getting shots, period. So not even shots anywhere, or shots on goal. Now, some of that probably is due to
the midfield.
Was the midfield. I'll certainly blame them then. But when you look at how much the LA Galaxy have quote unquote improved since Jermaine Jones has left, I don't know that you can blame the midfield for Giovani Zardes. Giovani dos Santos seems to have it somewhat figured out now. Why isn't Giovani Zardes? And is it that they're not looking for Giovani Zardes? I don't feel like that's the case because there were plenty of balls hit towards Giovani Zardes in this Minnesota game in the second half where he never got to them. And he lost 50-50 battles.
You got to lay a lot of this at Giovani's feet for whatever reason. I mean, I understand our midfield, Jermaine Jones and all that. That was definitely a problem, but some of it, when you see how he receives the ball and then what he does with it, that how a player receives the ball and then what he does with it, that's not anything to do with the midfield. And if you make bad decisions, if you turn around, make a bad decision in terms of your shot, whether you take a shot too soon or too slow, or don't lay off a pass, or lay off the wrong pass, or get confused in traffic, whatever it is, that has to do with who you are as a striker.
All right, we go to the turf, Baggio Husidic. It was ugly.
Oh no.
It was not pretty. We got confirmation finally on the Monday show as we were or the Tuesday show, I should say, because it was Tuesday this week. But on the Tuesday show, as we were recording, we got breaking news, quote unquote, because Kevin was all excited. He goes, "We got breaking news on the podcast." I'm like, "Kevin, it's not live. It won't go out for another couple hours. It's not really breaking news, and somebody else will beat you to it." So it was one of those. But we got breaking news basically that Baggio Husidic did break his fibula, his left fibula. So there's a fib and a tib, and the tib is, as my good friend Brittany taught me, is the only non-weight bearing bone in the body. So if it would have been a tibula, you can actually not that you could finish a game if you broke a tibula, right? It would be one of those hockey players have skated with broken tibulas before, but it heals faster because there's not a lot of weight bearing on it, but it's the fibula, which is the weight bearing bone, so it's going to take a little bit longer. LA Galaxy are claiming 6 to 8 weeks, which is a very, very short time frame for an injury of that nature, in my opinion.
It's going to be longer than that.
Yeah, well, I think let's just do minimum math. So we go 8 weeks, all right? So let's do 8 weeks and say it takes him 8 weeks to get back, and then he's still got 2 or 3 weeks of training to even get back before that comes back on the field. So just you can't call him bulletproof Baggio anymore if he breaks his leg, right?
We have to talk about the midfield situation with the injuries.
Joel Pedro also came off injured in this game.
What's the hamstring situation?
He seems fine. I was quoted by an LA Galaxy official as saying he was day to day a couple days ago. He's been training. I expect that he will play coming up in San Jose. So, a little bit. Just because, listen, you're relying on Joel Pedro, a guy who most of you, and sometimes even me, wanted to jettison from this team earlier in the year. But he's been playing much better and has been a much more integral part of the midfield. It's good that he's going to be back because more than likely you're going to be bringing Rafa Garcia, who did sub in for Baggio Husidic when he got injured in the 5th minute. He came in and played for the rest of the game. So you have that. You also had a Jelle Van Damme injury. This all goes back to the turf.
It was a terrible field. I was watching it when I was watching the replay of the game. I was watching MLS Live. I was shaking my head. I was like, what is going on with that field?
Oh, it was bad.
It looked gray.
Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, it's poor turf because it was made for college football, and it's probably been beaten down a little bit. It's the University of Minnesota who uses that field for their football games. It just wasn't a good play. Jelle Van Damme said it was probably the worst surface that he played on in Major League Soccer since he got here.
That's saying something.
Yeah, exactly. And he said, basically you should play soccer on grass, not turf, and they need to get rid of it. And he's right. I'll tell you that
what's the injury to Van Damme?
Van Damme was a knee injury at the time, but he says he will be fine and expect him to play as well. So both of those.
But in terms of our midfield, we have no Jermaine Jones.
Right.
Mixed bag there.
Mm-hmm.
We have no Sebastian Lletget.
Yes, he's injured.
Yes, we have a quasi hamstrung Joao Pedro.
Yes,
We have
he's probably going to be
broken
okay.
leg Baggio,
Yes,
right?
broken leg Baggio, yes.
Okay, so that means we're down in terms of midfielders who are not wingers to
Rafa Garcia.
Rafa,
Yeah, Rafa
right?
Garcia, yeah.
Because even if you bring in Raul Mendiola or Jose Villarreal, neither of those are central midfielders.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're gonna be starting to put the square peg in the round hole after you get past Rafa Garcia. So it's one of those interesting things to look at in terms of who else is going to do it. I said that one of the guys who actually, by the way, the LA Galaxy 2 signed re-signed, and I said re-signed as in he was not with he was with the team and then he wasn't with the team and went somewhere, but he went Alejandro Covarrubias was actually one of the guys who I thought could have some first team minutes this year if he would have stayed with the LA Galaxy. But instead, he went to OKC Energy FC, and now he's back with LA Galaxy 2. He just signed. He played in his first game, and I'm like, well, this would be a great job to give him a short-term loan and bring him up as depth on the bench because you don't have that choice. Of course, he got 2 yellow cards, and he's going to be suspended. So this.
I'm just saying we are precariously close to having you come in from the media room and play central midfield.
Which is not really my best role, I'll be honest with you. I'm more of, if you're going to put me in the midfield, I should be out wide. I mean, preferably right.
Who sent a tweet in earlier this week who said of the Corner of the Galaxy crew, they perceive Kevin Baxter as the solid center back, you as the shuttling box-to-box midfielder, and me as the number 10 creative playmaker.
You were, I believe, I don't remember who said it, but I read all of those, and I first of all, I would like to just thank whoever said that to think that I have the energy to be the box-to-box. That's me and Michael Bradley.
That's hustle.
Yeah,
that's hustle.
That's what it is. All about hustle. Gotta keep it moving. I would die after 5 minutes of trying to run. Actually, there wouldn't be no box to box. I would get close to the other box and I'd just fall over. So
there would just be box. It would just be the one box. You would go to one box and then take a little nap.
Basically, I just need a sub. I mean, Kurt, sub. Let's do this. Let's get this out. Bring on Emma. All right, he's fine. All right, so yeah, but that's where we sit sort of right now. There isn't depth. And here's the thing, is you look at the injuries the Galaxy have suffered in the midfield. And that was the place, Wendy, where they were the deepest. If you look at any other position, I'm convinced that you couldn't really have got, maybe striker, maybe you could have had this many injuries at striker. You'd still be down to like Ari Lassiter if this was the striker position. All right. So, that's sort of the same thing. So only in the center of midfield could the LA Galaxy possibly handle this. And now you're looking at going into a transfer window where you're looking at positions of need. Listen, Jermaine.
They're all of them, right back, center midfield, striker. I mean, there's a lot.
Listen, I'm almost ready to jettison the right back problem and be like, hey, listen, that's not a position of need anymore. We need a central midfielder and we need a striker and we need that now. Because at least I have bodies at right back. I need somebody to score goals. I need somebody in central midfield and possibly a longer-term option in center of midfield than Jermaine Jones is ever going to be because I would be surprised if
what are we going to do when he gets healthy? What's going to happen then? We know we can't work with Joao Pedro, so what are we going to do?
Right now, if he was healthy right now, you could bet your butt he'd be out there playing because the Galaxy have nobody.
Like they have to play him because they spent $772,000 on him, but in terms of his ability to actually play with other players, I don't know. He doesn't work well with Joao, so you want a functioning twosome in there at least.
Hey, but he would be at this point a healthy midfielder, so he would be playing. But I agree with you. What happens whenever Jones comes back? I mean, that's all. It depends on who's actually healthy. Before I'm ever going to make that.
Yeah,
decision.
I mean, what am I talking? We could be down to having Van Dam play as our defensive mid.
It might not be a horrible idea. That might be one of the. I said, if you're looking for that central attacking midfielder, maybe you could move Giovani dos Santos back into that role, and you could push up and you could get another striker off the bench because you have that. But
you could put Jack McBean and Zardes up top as a top two strikers, and then have Giovani dos Santos play as an attacking midfielder.
Yeah, you could do that, except that do you really want to mess with Giovani dos Santos and his mojo? Kevin actually brought that up after I said it. He goes, do you really, he has 3 goals in 3 games and you want to mess with where he's going to play? And I said,
it's just the beautiful woman problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we can't tamper. We can't tamper with his mojo. We can't tamper with his mood. Got to make sure he's feeling it. He's feeling hot. All right. right.
His writer says he needs a jar full of green M&Ms. All right, it's very, very important. Okay, so that's sort of where we sit. But I mean, the midfield is obviously the biggest question mark of what's going to happen, and you're going up against a San Jose team, in relative short order that is undefeated and undefeated at home, and just beat the last remaining undefeated team, I think, in the league with FC Dallas, and they beat them on the road. So San Jose went into FC Dallas and smacked them 1-0. And if you watch the highlights, at least from the highlights part, San Jose had the lion's share of that game anyway. So if you didn't want to have this problem be against San Jose, and if you're looking at what the LA Galaxy have done, I almost suggested at one point that the LA Galaxy got 6 points out of 2 games. They're 6 of 6 points on the 4-game road trip. Wendy, they could just stay home now. They don't have to go to the next 2 games.
This is certainly better than I ever thought we would do. I mean, and anyone who, by the way, anyone who says that they predicted the Galaxy would win these past 2 games,
liars.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, liars, pants on fire.
I don't believe you. Yes, no, I did not think that they would get 1 point for the past 2 games, but they did. They got 6 points, and that's as good as it's honestly as good as I reasonably think anyone could have expected.
That's way better than I thought they would do.
I feel like any points we get at this point is just surplusage. It's like, this is like, it's gravy, because I certainly did not expect us to go to the East twice and get 6 points. No way.
No, and nobody did, and that's where you get into what's going to happen. But here's the thing: is the LA Galaxy, and I've done the charts and graphs thing that I update after every game, and you look at it now, they're now equal with the 2015 LA Galaxy after 11 games. So they're both at 14 points.
Which was also a really weird LA Galaxy.
It was. Hey, those 2015 and 2016 years were not like great years, but at the same time, you look and they're not that far off of the 2014 LA Galaxy. So, so what they have done right now is, in this road trip where we thought they would get 0 points, they have actually pulled themselves into mediocrity, which is good. I mean, that's what you want. But here's my biggest fear. I talked about it on the last show, is the regression to the mean, right? In Major League Soccer, the teams and everybody sort of tends to move back to that center. The teams that are really good at the beginning of the year usually tend to slump a little bit, move towards the center. The teams that are really bad usually tend to win some games and move up. But it's about what happens after this that sort of defines how those races come out and whether or not the LA Galaxy can keep the momentum. The scariest thing for me right now is that if the LA Galaxy go into San Jose without momentum, feeling like, hey, we got injured a whole bunch, the second half in Minnesota wasn't great. Up until now, they've sort of been building on these performances. But the second half in Minnesota wasn't a build-upon moment. You got the 3 points, but it was ugly, and you probably shouldn't have won that game. You probably should have, best case scenario, you should have got a point. Maybe you lose that game. So,
well, Romain Alessandrini is good. So
he is.
I think we can count, if Romain Alessandrini is healthy and Giovani is feeling, if he's our special snowflake. Every team has its special snowflake, and Portland has Darlington Nagbe, and he's the special snowflake there, and we have our special snowflake in Giovani. If our special snowflake is feeling it and Romain Alessandrini is healthy, then I think we could count on the team to do something good. But what I've been surprised in the past 2 games is that I thought that Seattle had implemented a really good plan in terms of how to shut down Romain Alessandrini, which is that they just double teamed him, just made sure basically he was blocked off from all the other players. And then Philadelphia did the same thing. So I thought that's what every team was going to do, but they're not. They're allowing Romain Alessandrini to play, which is bizarre to me, because I'm like, you guys realize that he's right now by far our best offensive player. Like, there's no one who's even remotely close to him. If I was another team, I would be doing everything I could to just shut down Romain Alessandrini.
It would be like Pee Wee Bunchball. Just everybody go to Roman and just cover Roman.
Well, because why cover Jesse Zardes? He's not going to do anything. Why would another team? Why would a team pay any attention to our other offensive players when they're not creating output?
That's why it's super important that Giovani dos Santos continues this. That way he can pull attention away from Romain Alessandrini. And I agree with with you. The game plan here is if you're attacking the LA Galaxy, this is what I would say. Double team Roman Alessandrini anytime he gets into the offensive zone. So as soon as he crosses the midline, make sure you have two players on him.
Double team him.
Yep, and then attack the space behind him against the right back, who is going to be inexperienced regardless of who plays there. If it's Dave Romney or anybody else that they've put in here, in Bradley Diallo, Nathan Smith, any of those guys, attack that space behind him, because if you force him to defend, then he's not also being an offensive weapon. And if you know that that's the weakest side anyway, that's where you want to target. So, I mean, the LA Galaxy need to understand that's what the game plan is going to be, and Roman needs to understand that he's going to have to stay back a little bit more if they're going to do that. But that limits him both offensively in terms of when he gets the ball, he has two guys trying to close him down, and then it also limits his ability to get forward into the offensive zone anyway.
Why do you suppose New York didn't do that?
New York was horrible because that
New York was bad.
Yeah,
that was
they were
a
really
bad New York team.
That was. They were very, very, very bad, and they didn't even deserve to have the score be what it was, quite honestly. So it was one of those games. It was one of those things. All right, so that sort of closes up. LA Galaxy do get, again, their second consecutive road win. They're unbeaten for a 2-1 win over Minnesota United. The LA Galaxy then get ready for game 3 of 4 on the road. It's almost time. We're getting closer, Wendy. I can feel it. But in no time at all, the LA Galaxy will be back at StubHub Center getting ready to actually play a game. We'll see if that happens. But before we get to any of these, I wanted to go to 2 calls that we got. One I saved specifically for you, Wendy, and I want to touch on this. So here is Matt from Hawthorne.
Hey, Josh. It's Matt from Hawthorne. First-time caller. Big fan of the show, for starters. Really big fan of the work you guys are doing over there. First off, I'm happy the team's doing well. I actually wanted to come back to a really insightful point that Wendy made on the show a couple weeks ago about the experience and qualifications of the front office and the positions they hold. I'm a little more sympathetic to Klein and company, who I can't really think an awful is the best for the job. And the reason I say that is because the whole stated reason for hiring an awful, this whole youth experiment or pivot, actually makes no logical sense if you think about it. For one, we weren't that old of a team to begin with. Donovan came in his 20s, Beckham was 32, Keane was 31, Omar was in his mid-20s, Dos Santos in his mid-20s. Gerard was kind of an outlier, and we only went after him after Bruce Arena failed to get Sasha Question. It's not like we were New York City FC. I keep hearing this pivot away from aging stars, but our starting forward is a homegrown player. I feel like the whole youth movement pivot is a little disingenuous to begin with. Secondarily, even taking for granted that we're doing this youth pivot, I'm going to challenge the conventional wisdom that hiring an alpha would make sense to kind of usher in this youth pivot. That doesn't make sense at all. Not only is intimate experience with the reserve team not a requirement or an advantage when integrating these players into the first team level, I would argue that any good MLS level coach is probably going to be much better than an alpha at evaluating talent to play in MLS. No other top team would do this. It's more important to find a successful MLS level coach than someone intimately familiar with our Oregon reserve team players. Bruce did a fine job of integrating some Galaxy 2 players. And an awful so far hasn't really, he hasn't really been able to decide whether Smith or Giallo has been better. So again, that would seem like the expertise he would bring, and he hasn't so far. So what's really going on? It feels like the front office hands are tied here, and I get the feeling we'll be stuck with an awful for a long time. I think if they had the resources to bring in someone better than an awful, or even maybe Baenas for the positions to begin with, they would have. And I think the whole youth experiment is kind of just spin to justify kind of grabbing these underwhelming picks. That's granted, that's very wild speculation on my part, but what do you guys think? You had any more insight into that, I guess? Anyway, I hope I didn't make a long rambling call, but thanks, you guys. Keep up the great work on the show. Thanks again.
All right. Clearly, Matt is angling for his own talk show here on Corner of the Galaxy. Which, by the way, Matt, very well done for your first time calling in. He didn't
very articulate, and he stayed under 3 minutes.
And he did stay under 3 minutes, just barely, because that's the cutoff. The cutoff is 3 minutes. They won't let you record anything past that. I would say that if you want to guarantee you get on the show, make it 30 seconds. Because I
think I'm very appreciative of Matt's call, and I think he made some very salient points. In fact, I would actually agree with him that I think that one way to spin the move that the front office did when they hired Curt Onalfo is that to say that they are ushering in an era where we're going to focus on homegrown players and youth talent. But that's also just a proxy of saying that we are going to buy players that are cheap, and we're going to get a coach that is cheap because we are in a cost-cutting era. One way to characterize cost-cutting and being cheap or frugal is to say that we are focusing on youth and we're interested in development, but those are just semantics, because we all know what they're doing. They're going for someone who's not going to cost a lot of money the way Bruce did, someone who's not going to demand a lot of autonomy and control over the team the way Bruce did, and someone who's essentially going to do the job for a fraction of what Bruce cost, and who's going to hire players who cost a fraction of the players that Bruce hired. So I think that one way that the LA Galaxy is trying to sell this is that they're, doing what FC Dallas did. But FC Dallas focused on its academy for years and years and years. They spent years and years. They spent a huge amount of money in focusing on their academy and bringing in homegrown players. And you can't just all of a sudden pivot as an organization and say, now we're doing homegrown players. I know we have an academy, but up until Bruce left, Bruce was very interested in bringing in players who were much more expensive than the players we're getting now. And although Bruce did a good job, I think, working with some youth players, he wasn't particularly interested in getting inexpensive options. He liked expensive options. And so I think that Matt is correct. We would be well served by getting the best coach possible for the job instead of just hiring someone because, one, they're our friend, or two, they're cheap.
Yeah, no, I agree with some of the points. I definitely, and I can see how you could be led down that path. But Bruce, really didn't like young players at all. I mean, you can look at...
people say that, and yes, he did rely a lot on veterans, and he's definitely a loyalty guy and a trust guy, but he did bring in Giassi.
Look, yeah, he brought in Giassi, who I don't even think Bruce was against all young players, or I don't think that he was for getting all, veteran players. I think that Bruce wanted to understand what he was getting, and from youth players, he didn't trust a lot of them because with youth comes inexperience and sort of inconsistency, and that's not how Bruce plays. So you would see it. Look at the U.S. Open Cup that the U.S. Open Cup run the LA Galaxy tried to put out last year with Bruce was, all these old veteran players playing. There weren't a ton of young guys in there. And the LA Galaxy have been signing homegrown players for a while, maybe not in the same number that they have, but you had guys like Tristan Bowen, and Jack McBean was signed a long time ago. You had Jose Villarreal signed a long time ago. So they've been trying to bulk up that academy team for probably the last 6-7 years. Realistically speaking.
If Ferdinand is accustomed to playing with younger players, why do we think that he would do a better job of transitioning players to the first team if he is not a first team coach? I mean, it makes sense to me that a coach who's accustomed to the first team, who knows how to coach in MLS, he's the coach who would do the best job. And if you want to, if you really want to bring in a coach who's going to be successful at transitioning youth players, then hire Oscar Pareja. Okay. Hire a coach in MLS who's demonstrated a success in terms of transitioning young players to the first team. I don't know why you would go to the reserve team and hire the reserve coach.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. I don't think that argument in terms of, listen, the argument that Matt makes, which is you should try to get the best coach for the position.
Yeah. It seems like sort of an intuitive thing, but...
There's not an argument there. There's not an argument there at all, all right?
But so what about if we get the best person for the job, though?
Whoa, no way. Well, and here's the other thing. People ask, what are the resources available? Sort of Matt said, the hands of the front office are tied. And maybe AEG is putting a clamp on them. Maybe they are saying they can't spend. But at the same time, what are the actual resources of AEG? AEG can spend any amount of money.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
Well, there's rumors out there right now, ESPN FC. I didn't see who wrote it, so I apologize. Hopefully it's Jeff Carlisle, good friend of the show, who writes for ESPN FC. Jeff, or whoever wrote this, said that, it looks like LAFC isn't going to sign Chicharito, Javier Hernandez, because it's too much money. It's too much money per year. It's $10 million per year, perhaps, is what he's asking. Now, who knows at this negotiating point or anything else? And I'm sitting there going, there's no such thing to AEG. You wanted to make a statement. Now, granted, I don't know that he's the best fit, but if you're talking about a player that wants $10 million a year and an organization who can pay that amount of money, AEG is that organization.
Oh, well, let's not talk about. I mean, listen, Kraft owns the New England Patriots. Okay,
Yes.
He's got resources.
And
He will not spend a
Dime.
nickel
Yeah,
on
I
the
know.
New England Revolution. He will not spend a dime on that team, and he has billions. Okay, AEG has a net worth. I mean, I remember I was researching this. They have, in terms of all their assets and everything, it's about $12 billion, which makes them more wealthy than the owners of Manchester United. Okay, so I mean, no one, in terms of thinking about the resources available to an organization, AEG has all the resources in the world. It has the resources available to Manchester City. It has the resources available to the richest teams in the world. It's not a question of what resources are available to it, okay? It's a question of what do you want to pay.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in places like England, I actually am not a huge fan of this, or China, vast amounts of money is spent on things with absolutely no idea of whether it will actually bear fruit.
Yeah.
I think that MLS, which people are very critical of, is from a business sense a much more business savvy, prudent way to run a league in terms of, especially when you're entering a saturated marketplace, which sports is, and you're in a sport which is basically up until now been a niche sport. I think that it's extremely well organized. That being said, yeah, I don't like being on a team where they're cost cutting and they're just getting the cheapest option available. It's not nice to be a fan of a team when you feel like they're being stingy, especially when they go out to their fan base and their season ticket holders, and it always kind of feels like they're greasing you for money.
Yeah, no, there's something to that. And then here's the other part about that is we say they're cheap, we say they're not spending money, but then they overpay for players that you scratch your head on. And so it's not even
like, why give Jermaine Jones a raise?
You can't even argue that they're spending wisely or smartly in some cases. Now, granted, I think Roman Alessandrini was a great buy for what they got him for.
I know. He's been fabulous. That's the thing, is that the same front office, or I want to know, I want someone to give me a piece of paper that sets forth who is responsible for each decision in the offseason, because I cannot believe that the same people who would decide to buy Romain Alessandrini, who is so good, and buy, well, let's say Yel Van Dam last year or Ashley Cole last year, such good decisions, are the same people who decide to trade AJ De La Garza and give Jermaine Jones a raise. I just cannot fathom that these are the same human beings making these decisions.
It's like you want to point at people and say, this is your fault.
Yes.
You did this.
Who is responsible for this decision, and who is responsible for this decision? I want you guys to isolate yourselves, get in a line, and we're going to do it like firing squad style.
All right, let's go to one more quick call here. We're already way behind, Wendy. We're going a little longer tonight, I can tell already. So just, if you need to stretch, now might be the time. But let's go to Brian in Pasadena. Here's Brian.
Hey, what's up, Josh? This is Brian with the Y from Pasadena. Just giving a call about a couple things. One about Boateng, just being the first guy subbed almost every game. I know it didn't happen the last game. That was probably just because Baggio got injured first. I think everyone can agree on that. I think a more effective sub would be Jossie. He hasn't been effective since he's come back. He could give a chance for McBean to get that kind of Alan Gordon role that I think a lot of fans have been looking for all season to get from McBean. But he's not going to be able to develop that if he's not getting any minutes. So thanks for hearing me out, and have a good night. Thanks.
All right, there's Brian from Pasadena. Brian with a Y, by the way. Just in case.
I know, Jossie. Okay, so Josh, if this is going on, if
Yes.
you are Chris Klein,
Yes.
and we are approaching the summer window, and we are in the situation that we are right now,
Yes.
are you going to go out and buy a striker, a midfielder, or a right back?
Yes. Do I get all three?
You're saying all three? We don't have the money. We have one DP spot available.
Okay.
What are you doing with your DP slot? What are you doing?
I would look for a long-term option at center midfield, somebody that fits with the system that you're trying to build with Joao Pedro, because Pedro's 23. I want a long-term option that's going to be able to pair with him.
Why not Sebastian Lletget?
You can be, but here's the problem, and this is the problem that I have with this. Well, one, it's not really a problem. I can move Lletget around a little bit. I would love to keep him there, but right now I'm worried that the LA Galaxy can't wait for him to get healthy again, and we still don't know exactly when he's even going to start training again. We know it's a long process. We know it's a long injury. It's one of these things that's there. So do you can't afford, and this is sort of the whole idea behind keeping Cardinalfo at the same time, is that you can't afford to start all over again right now. And so do I wait for Lletget or not? I mean, you bring up a good point, Wendy. It would be something that I would probably lose sleep over if I had to make the decision. But I think that you have to find a difference maker and somebody who...
If Giassi can't score goals and
Right.
we have no healthy central midfielders, and we realize that Pedro and Jones don't work together,
Right.
and Leggett is out for the next 4 months, and we do have a right back situation, I don't know what you do with your DP slot.
Well-
I mean, I know you can't do a DP right back, but we do need a right back.
Yeah, you can't do that. You could. So here's sort of the thing. This is what I said. So I would go long term, possibly with a central midfielder, if I thought that was going to. If I could find somebody at the position for the right price. Everything sort of has to fit there. Or I would go for a real impact player at striker, because I can always move Giassi's artist back into the midfield. Maybe that means Boateng comes off the bench, which isn't a horrible thing. I like Emmanuel Boateng. He does a lot of wonderful things, but sometimes he's more effective as a change of pace than he is at just the guy who starts out there and runs his butt off. Although I'm kind of okay.
I do not know what to do.
Yeah,
I do not know. I do not know.
It's what they say is a conundrum. That's what they
It
say.
is. It is. It's yes. It's a conundrum. It's an enigma. It's perplexing. Yeah, it's all those things.
All right. Let's see what else we can get into. LA Galaxy team news now. The LA Galaxy have announced their 4th annual Pride Night on June 24th. So the Galaxy will celebrate. This is one of my favorite nights, by the way.
I'm going to bring my scarf, my beautiful rainbow scarf.
Well, here's the cool thing. So Galaxy will celebrate the LGBTQ community with their 4th edition of Pride Night as the Galaxy's match on Saturday, June 24th against Sporting KC. This is presented by Hotel Tonight. All right. And I would like to get the sponsor in there for this particular one because they're making some of this possible. So the first 15,000 fans will receive a free Galaxy Pride towel. So you get a Pride towel, which is always, I like the towels. I got towels all over the studio here.
I bought that beautiful scarf they made 2 years ago.
And
the rainbow scarf.
I have 2 of the Pride scarves of the 3. So I'm with you there, Wendy. I have the same thing. Here's tickets start at $19.50, and if you buy that ticket, you get a Pride Night scarf included. LAGalaxy.com/Pride. I have bought the ticket for $20 and just to get the scarf many times. If you're one of those higher spending people, want to spend $100 on a VIP ticket, the first 50, I thought this was interesting, the first 50 VIP ticket buyers get an exclusive meet and greet with the one and only, often missing, Robbie Rogers, who will do a pre-game sort of meet and greet with portions of the proceeds going to the nonprofit Covenant
But wait a
House.
second. If you're a season ticket holder, you don't get the scarf? But if you buy a ticket for $20, then you do?
Yes. Yeah. So if you wanted to buy a ticket, this is what I normally do, Wendy, is I normally buy the ticket and then I donate it to somebody. In fact, last year they actually had a thing where they would give it to some homeless teens coming to the game. You could actually donate it from the website. I wish they would have had that up there again because I did that. No problem. So I'm like, great, I get a scarf and I get to donate a ticket. That's kind of cool. I'll feel good about myself and I still get a scarf.
LA Galaxy front office, I roll my eyes at you.
Well, you didn't expect them to give away anything for free now. Well, you got the free Pride
Why
towel.
would they give anything for their season ticket
you
holders?
get a free Pride towel. There's
We're
also
nice to them. We're a noose around their neck. They don't even like us.
You also get, there's also an in-game drive collecting essential toiletries such as deodorant, bar soap, body wash, shaving cream, or toothpaste. All those items will be collected outside of the gates before the match, so you can do that as well. All right, so that's sort of the update on your LA Galaxy team news in terms of what's going on or coming up. So June 24th, mark that on your calendars. LA Galaxy 2 news, Saturday, May 27th, the same time that the LA Galaxy will be taking on San Jose, LA Galaxy 2 will be getting their second shot at Phoenix Rising FC. That's Didier Drogba's team, who will be coming to StubHub Center. So
is Didier Drogba actually going to play?
I don't know. I don't think he's played yet, has he?
I would get a real crack out of that. Watching him play in USL.
It might be fun to watch. So anyway, there's a chance.
Watch him crush the bones of USL players.
It might be fun to watch. So anyway, so you'll get that. That is at 7:30 p.m. kickoff time on Saturday, May 27th. So if you're not going to the San Jose game, Wendy, actually, this is the perfect thing for you. You need to go to this LA Galaxy 2 game because we're not allowing you to watch the live game. So you're not allowed to watch the senior team play.
That's right.
So,
I've been relegated as a fan.
Yeah, it was funny in their press release. They said Alejandro Corvarrubias, well, you can come back and see his first game at StubHub Center, except he is suspended for the 2 yellow cards. All right. Let's see. LA Galaxy schedule coming up. We know about the San Jose game. Then after San Jose, they will travel on June 3rd to go face DC United, their last 4 of 4 games on the road trip at RFK Stadium. Probably the last time they'll ever get to play at RFK. I believe that is correct. So next time the LA Galaxy travel to DC, they will actually get to play at the new stadium there whenever that eventually gets built. I'm hoping that that's true.
So break off a piece of RFK if you're going out there and bring it home with you.
You don't have to break it off. It's just simply laying there. All right, it's already been falling apart. So we've already talked about the home game Saturday, June 17th against the Houston Dynamo when AJ De La Garza comes back, and then there is an away game against the Colorado Rapids on June 21st, and then back home to this Saturday, June 24th game, 7:30 p.m. at StubHub Center against Sporting Kansas City. The LA Galaxy did not move anywhere in the standings, but that's okay. All right, they maintained their pace. They closed the gap a little bit. The LA Galaxy sit in 7th place in the Western Conference. Sporting Kansas City now 1st place, having played 13 games, 22 points. All right, Toronto FC is tops in the leagues right now, 26 points from 13 games played.
Actually, Eastern Conference is better than the West this year. It's the first time that I can remember in memory.
Yeah, it's one of those. And see, look, it's that. I need to go back and check my away record thing. Everybody said that the LA Galaxy had the best record in Major League Soccer whenever it came to away, and I got that from official sources. But Toronto is 3-1-3 on the road. That's 3 points and 9, so they actually have 12. Have the Galaxy have them? Yeah, the Galaxy don't have that.
No.
So
Toronto's crushing.
So Toronto has the best road record in Major League Soccer. What do people know? I'll tell you. I'm trying to see if there's anything. San Jose is actually playing pretty well. They're about mid-table.
I've been watching a lot of MLS games. Like on the weekends, I've been watching tons of MLS live. There's actually a lot of really good teams this year. I mean, because I've been so depressed about the LA Galaxy being terrible. No, there's a lot of teams that are doing some really interesting, fun stuff. Yeah.
All right. So, there's lots of
Atlanta, Portland, Orlando, Toronto, Columbus. There's all kinds of good teams out there.
It'll be fun to see if the LA Galaxy actually get to compete against some of those teams or if they're going to get blown out of the water eventually. So, we are now ready and willing and waiting for this San Jose game. So, if you're okay with it, Wendy, I'd like to do my intro to this game.
Oh, boy. Yes, go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much. Your LA Galaxy will get ready to travel up to San Jose in Northern California on Saturday, May 27, 2017. This is a 7 p.m. kickoff on Univision, and you can watch it on Facebook. That's right, on Facebook. San Jose is 5-4-4, 19 points, 13 games played, 4th in the Western Conference, 9th overall in the league. LA Galaxy are 4-5-2, 14 points, 11 games played, 7th in the Western Conference, 16th overall. Those are all unchanged from the last week. Last game for San Jose was a 1-0 win on the road over FC Dallas. A goal scored in the 81st minute by Jamir Haika. He actually scored one just minutes before that, but it was waved off for offside. It was actually really close. He came back, he scored another goal. San Jose defeats FC Dallas on the road 1-0, ending FC Dallas's unbeaten streak in 2017. The LA Galaxy enter game 3 of 4 on the road. They've earned 6 of 6 points and look for 3 wins in a row. The LA Galaxy have the best road record in Major League Soccer, except that they don't because Toronto has the best road record in Major League Soccer. San Jose, however, is undefeated at home in 2017. They're 3-0-3. The Galaxy have won just once in the last 13 regular season meetings in Northern California, and that spans across 4 different stadiums. The last win was a 1-0 victory on June 28, 2014 at Stanford Stadium. This will be only the second meeting ever between the two teams at Avaya Stadium, as San Jose tends to always make these games played somewhere else. Previous game was a 1-0 loss on August 28, 2015. Wasn't a good start for the LA Galaxy. Chris Wondolowski is the Quakes' all-time scorer in this particular rivalry, 7 goals in 17 games against the Galaxy, and Wando is their overall leader in goals scored in 2017 with 5 goals. He also has 5 assists, which he leads the team as well. Ramon Alessandrini is the leader of the Galaxy in goals with 6 and assists with 5. Giovani dos Santos has scored 3 goals in 3 games. But the real question is, can the Galaxy keep their winning streak and road winning streak alive? We're going to find out on Saturday as the first of the California Clasicos gets underway. All right, Wendy, here we go. This is a very important game for the LA Galaxy because it's against San Jose, and it doesn't matter ever what happens with the LA Galaxy in terms of what they do as long as they beat San Jose.
Oh, I think it's going to be a draw. That's what I feel because it's been so fluky. We won 2 and now we're all injured. I just feel like it's going to be a fluky outcome. And I think the flukiest outcome after winning 2 and being injured with San Jose being unbeaten at home,
right,
the flukiest outcome is actually a draw.
Yeah, and here's my worry. San Jose is all on this high after beating FC Dallas. Again, in a game which they look like they dominated, at least from the highlights that I was able to watch. So you have a team that's feeling it right now in San Jose. They get to play at Avaya Stadium, which again they're unbeaten at. They feel comfortable with. The LA Galaxy have only played there. Technically, it's twice before, by the way, because we talked about the very first preseason game that ever got played at Avaya Stadium, which is a great place to go. I know there's lots of people traveling up, so hopefully you're listening to this as you're driving up. Be safe, be careful. We'll see you whenever you get back down here. I will be up there for this game. I just feel like that San Jose has a lot going for it, and with the injuries to the LA Galaxy midfield, with Baggio Husidic now getting injured, he's not going to be available. Granted, I mean, he's been playing great, Wendy, for the LA Galaxy, and he's paired so well with Pedro that it's really made sort of a solid team. So the fact that he's not there, and I think my good friend over at the Riot Squadcast, Chris Tucker, said this on Twitter. He goes, if you would have told me that Baggio Husidic going out would mean sort of the downfall of the LA Galaxy midfield this year, that him being injured would cause the LA Galaxy to fall apart possibly, that he goes, I would have called you crazy, right? And you sit there and look at what had started, and Baggio, was never going to be the starter. But now you look at what he's done over the last couple games, 3 games, and you're like, the Galaxy are going to hurt without him.
Oh, yeah, big time. I mean, Baggio is stable. He's very stable and known. He is a known quantity. He's our vegan. He is our vegan. And so him going out is really bad because João Pedro was comfortable with him. He understood him and was playing well with him and pairing with him. And, the central midfield partnership is probably the most important partnership on the field. I mean, center back pairings are also important, but you have to have center midfielders who communicate well with one another, who can feed off of. That's why really the LA Galaxy was so successful in 2014, is because we had Juninho and Marcelo Sarvis, and they fed so well off of each other. And when you have a dysfunctional central midfield partnership, it is just disarray and dismal for the team. And so, Baggio was obviously someone that Pedro was comfortable with, and now Rafa, who knows whether he is or not. We definitely know he's not comfortable with Jones. I have no idea. But I mean, what do you think what do you think the game is going to be? What do you predict?
I think the Galaxy lose. I think they're going to lose 2-1, maybe 1-0. Listen, these games, I think your draw is a perfectly reasonable outcome, and it wouldn't surprise me at all because these teams just tend to, unless it gets wacky, which it's a rivalry game, so it can definitely get wacky. Unless it gets wacky, it always seems to be
wacky. San Jose games can get wacky. Mike McGee can go in goal. There can be a brawl on the field. Anything can happen.
Any of those things could happen, absolutely. And so, you never know if Q, their I would say mascot, but I feel like he's more of like, a laughing stock of mascots. So I don't want to give him that much credit. I mean, when you compare Q with Cosmo, it's like
no comparison.
Why it would be like comparing like the English Premier League to like my Sunday Pub League. Basically.
Cosmo is the best mascot.
In anything, I think hands down he's the best mascot. I don't know that there's
without a doubt. I don't think there's anyone who compares to Cosmo.
So in this particular case, in this particular situation, there's really no comparison whatsoever. I mean, if it was a mascot war,
if it was just a game between our mascots, I don't think we would blow San Jose out of the water.
It wouldn't even be a game. But listen, they have a lot. They have good players. This Haika kid. I say kid. Everybody's a kid to me now. He's their number 10, sort of been playing on the left wing. You have Lache in the center there. I mean, Wondolowski's there. You got Tommy Thompson if you really want to go down that road again. David Bingham, for the most part, usually plays a good, goalkeeper. They have a lot of really good weapons. And for the LA Galaxy, this is their 3rd road game in a row. Here's the thing about the rivalry that sort of helps me a little bit, Wendy, is that if you're talking about a team that's getting tired of playing on the road, the fact that it's a rivalry should amp them up enough to be up for this game. So I think if you're looking for the real letdown game, it's probably against DC United, especially if they somehow pull out 3 points on this one. In fact, if you win this game against San Jose, if I'm Kurt Analfo, I sign all the LA Galaxy 2 guys to senior team and just send them over to DC United.
Just send them to DC.
Yeah.
You guys are going to DC.
Yeah, it's not what you need to be looking for. I will say
you're going to fight the raccoons at RFK.
That's right. Hey, StubHub Center has raccoons as well. Did you know that? I've run
You have raccoons?
Yeah, oh yeah, there's lots of wildlife around there. So I've run into the raccoon 2 or 3 times when I've been leaving the stadium late at night. So here's a little heads up in case you're wondering, in case you will see what happens. Keep an eye on Jelle Van Damme and Roman Alessandrini in this game. If either of those two don't want to go to DC United, all they have to do is pick up a yellow card and they will be suspended for the next game. So let's see. You know, Jelle Van Damme claims that he loves Los Angeles, and Roman Alessandrini claims that he loves Los Angeles. Jelle told me that he loves Los Angeles so much that he doesn't even like going on away trips. He just likes staying in LA because it's so amazing. So maybe Yellow's the one who picks up the yellow card. In about the 88th minute, with the game already decided, he's going to go just kick somebody and pick up a yellow card so he doesn't have to go to DC United. It actually might be a good strategy. I probably wouldn't even be like upset about either of those guys missing the DC United game. As long as the result, is a point or 3 points on the road for San Jose. But just keep your eyes on that one. Joel Pedro is 2 yellow cards away from a suspension. So that's sort of your suspension
Every
watch.
player who plays for the LA Galaxy, they could hate Cardinalfo, hate the front office, not like MLS, think the fans suck, think the fields are terrible, hate their teammates. I'm telling you, every single player loves living in Los Angeles.
Of course they do.
It's just they think it's just the best. The city is like, because imagine if you play in like Stoke or something like that. You're living in like miserable, terrible weather, and you come out here, it's just sunshine, beautiful women, incredible food. That's what the city is.
That's why I'm here. I mean, it must say something that even New Yorkers for the most part tend to move to Los Angeles. All right. It happens. They'll still talk about New York all the time. Like anytime you ask them, like, how's the weather? They're like, I'm from New York. But they move to Los Angeles, so it happens all the time. All right, Wendy, anything else? Can we get out of here? Can we
let's get out of here.
All right, why don't you tell people where they can find you, and we'll go.
You can find me at Corn the Galaxy and American Soccer Now, and on Twitter at Barsblond.
All right, if you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at Guesman, JGUESMAN, and at Galaxy Podcast. That's where you can find me as well. Also, go on over to cornerthegalaxy.com. We got articles, we got podcasts, we got YouTube videos, we got all that fun stuff right there, cornerthegalaxy.com. LA Galaxy get ready to face off against the San Jose Earthquakes. Cali-Clasico, number 1 of 2017, coming up on Saturday. Hope everybody has a safe trip up, a safe trip back. If you're staying here, head over to the LA Galaxy 2 game. Otherwise, we will catch everybody on Monday. Have a great long weekend. It'll probably be a Tuesday recording. Monday, Tuesday, one of those days, definitely. We'll let you know. Follow us on Twitter. All right, for Miss Wendy Thomas, I'm Josh Guesman. Have a wonderful, wonderful night.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. And for all of your independent LA Galaxy news, discussion, and entertainment, including this podcast, head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. Fans, thanks for listening. We ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.